You've probably heard the popular Spongebob theory, the one about the 7 deadly sins. Well, what if that's only half the story? What if Bikini Bottom isn't just a playground of vice, but also a battlefield of virtue? Think about it. SpongeBob SquarePants isn't just a goofy cartoon about a sponge flipping burgers, but a hidden showdown between good and evil. Each main character doesn't just reflect a sin, they also embodied one of the 7 heavenly virtues. Coincidence? Maybe, but the evidence is surprisingly convincing. Let's start with SpongeBob, the star of the show. He's so ceaselessly industrious, so impossibly hardworking. He elevates the title of mere fry cook and becomes something more, something terrifying. The very embodiment of the virtue of diligence. Diligence is defined as tireless perseverance and enthusiasm for one's work. SpongeBob lives and breathes this virtue. He's not just a fry cook, he's the fry cook, flipping patties with religious devotion. Diligence is one of the 7 heavenly virtues, a noble counterforce to the deadly sin sloth. While sloth tells you to sleep in and pretend your alarm clock doesn't exist, diligence slaps you across the face and forces you into a double shift at work. It is the virtue of hard work, persistence, and unwavering commitment, regardless of how miserable the cause may be. And who in all of Bikini Bottom exemplifies this better than SpongeBob? Every morning, SpongeBob hurls himself out of bed like a deranged morning person on a cocktail of espresso and pure serotonin. He doesn't just wake up, he launches himself into the day, fully dressed, ready for battle. His destination? The Krusty Krab. His mission? Flip burgers until his hands are worn to nubs. His reward? Minimum wage and the fleeting approval of a capitalist crustacean overlord. And yet, he loves it.
Aye, aye, Captain!
This is not the behavior of a sane being. This is the behavior of someone who has surrendered entirely to the iron grip of diligence. Let's compare him to his polar opposite, Patrick Star. Patrick is sloth incarnate. He sleeps under a rock and he has no job. His biggest accomplishment in life is winning an award for doing nothing. When SpongeBob tries to introduce him to the joy of hard work, what happens?
As long as I'm still standing, you'll never wear this hat again.
He crumbles like a soggy hash brown, because not everyone can handle the burden of relentless commitment to their craft. Not everyone is built to wake up with an unbreakable sense of duty. Not everyone can be SpongeBob. Other episodes like Pizza Delivery and Graveyard Shift showcase his obsession with hard work. Whether it's delivering pizzas on a rock in a plain desert, or working an overnight shift in a haunted restaurant, SpongeBob just doesn't quit. But here's the thing about virtues. They are only virtuous in moderation. And SpongeBob, he has no concept of moderation.
I don't need it.
Diligence without limits is just obsession with extra steps. SpongeBob's commitment to the Krusty Krab is so absolute, so unwavering, that he has no life beyond it. He takes no vacations, no sick days, no breaks. The only time he even attempts to relax, he has an existential crisis and spirals into a void of dread. Squidward, a man who just wants to clock in, do the bare minimum, and go home, is forced to share a workspace with this unholy force of relentless enthusiasm. SpongeBob is so dedicated to his work that he actively makes everyone else's mediocreness look bad. He is the coworker you dread, the one who volunteers for extra shifts when everyone else is praying for an early closing, the one who calls the boss sir unironically. And it's not just Squidward. Even the whole town is dreaded by his unhinged behavior. Hell, they've even orchestrated a full-scale mass exodus to get away from SpongeBob.
It was National No SpongeBob Day!
That's Gone episode in a nutshell.
Yeah, everybody needs at least one day away from...
So, is SpongeBob the embodiment of diligence? Absolutely. But his relentless work ethic exposes the darker side of his virtue. Hard work is admirable, until it consumes you. Passion is inspiring, until it turns obsessive. And to live with someone like SpongeBob, that takes an extraordinary level of patience, maybe even wisdom. In the depths of the ocean and the unhinged Bikini Bottom, there's one creature in Bikini Bottom who isn't ruled by impulse, excess, or chaos. A philosopher, a stoic, a sage wrapped in the shell of a mollusk. His name? Gary the Snail. You may know him as SpongeBob's pet, but what if I told you Gary is much more? What if I told you Gary is the very embodiment of temperance? Temperance, the virtue of self-restraint, moderation, and wisdom. In a world that thrives on absurdity, gluttony, and chaos, one must ask, who in Bikini Bottom truly embodies these qualities? Certainly not Spongebob, a workaholic optimist one coffee cup away from total meltdown. Not Patrick, a walking void of self-control. And not Mr. Krabs, whose greed transcends moral boundaries. But Gary is different. Let's start with the basics. Food. Unlike Spongebob, who could be bribed into oblivion with a Krabby Patty, or Patrick, who once ate his own weight in ice cream, Gary displays sheer amount of restraint. Except when he doesn't.
Those sold out almost immediately.
Okay, even the wise have weaknesses. But notice, this is the exception, not the rule. Most of the time, Gary eats only when necessary. He doesn't binge. Bikini Bottom thrives on nonsense. I mean, it's a literal never-ending circus. Yet Gary, he stays above it all.
Dreams have been thought of as windows to another realm.
Here we see the truth. Gary is not just intelligent, he is self-aware. In contrast to SpongeBob's boundless enthusiasm for chaos, Gary is the only character who acknowledges the absurdity around him and chooses not to partake. 1,000-yard stare from a soul that has seen too much. Gary does not panic, he does not interfere. He simply watches, resigned to the fate of those who lack temperance. But here's the important thing. Temperance is not just about restraint, it is about endurance. The ability to suffer fools and remain composed. And if anyone in Bikini Bottom suffers, it's Gary. When SpongeBob tries to break him, to turn him into something he's not, Gary does not comply. He resists the pressure. He lets his oppressor destroy himself. This is temperance in action. Still not convinced? Consider this. Gary has never been seen breaking Bikini Bottom's unspoken moral code. He does not steal. He does not lie. He does not exploit. He simply exists, in peace, asking only for a warm bed and the occasional meal. A god among fools, a snail among men, the embodiment of temperance. Now, speaking about restraint, there is one character who clearly doesn't have any restraint, especially when it comes to profit. It is none other than Eugene Krabs himself. Charity is about selfless giving, which sounds like the opposite of Mr. Krabs. At first glance, Eugene H. Krabs, the penny-pinching overlord of the Krusty Krab, is greed incarnate. He'd charge his own customers for oxygen if he could. His obsession with profit leads to comically extreme frugality, like refusing to turn on the heat in winter or making employees pay to work.
Heat costs money!
But beneath that rock-hard shell of capitalism lies a paradox. Because every now and then, Mr. Krabs does something so shockingly generous that you have to wonder, is this the same guy who once tried to sell SpongeBob's soul for 62 cents?
If you had to choose between SpongeBob and all the money I have in my pocket, 62 cents.
I'll take the money.
Mr. Krabs!
In Whale of a Birthday, Mr. Krabs faces his greatest financial nightmare, his daughter Pearl's Sweet 16. Naturally, his first instinct is to pinch every penny, so he hands SpongeBob his credit card, assuming the world's most naive fry cook will keep spending in check. But when he realizes how important this day is to Pearl, he does something unthinkable. He lets SpongeBob go all out. Extravagant gifts, a massive party. It's the kind of spending spree that should put Mr. Krabs in a coma. Yet for Pearl's happiness, he temporarily loosens his iron grip on his wallet. Now, if spending money on his daughter seems out of character, how about giving away free stuff to strangers? Let's watch Born Again Krabs, the episode where greed quite literally sends Mr. Krabs to the afterlife. After eating a rancid Krabby Patty, he falls gravely ill and has a near-death experience. The Flying Dutchman even arrives to claim his soul, because of course, he's morally bankrupt. But in a desperate attempt to save himself, Krabs promises to change. When he miraculously recovers, he goes on a wild generosity spree. Free toys, free drinks, free entertainment.
Free toys for everyone and free refills!
Bikini Bottom briefly becomes a utopia. Of course, this doesn't last. The moment someone tries to take advantage of his kindness, he backslides harder than a New Year's resolution. Still, for a brief moment, he proves that under the right or terrifying circumstances, he can put people over profit. And then there's episode Midlife Crustacean, where Mr. Krabs hits a full-blown midlife crisis. Feeling old, out of touch, and less relevant than a landline, he seeks out SpongeBob and Patrick for a wild night of youthful adventure.
I'm feeling a warm spot.
Krabs, are you feeling it? Are you feeling it now, Mr. Krabs? Mr. Krabs!
I can feel it.
Their shenanigans lead up to the infamous Panty Raid, which ends in humiliating defeat when they accidentally rob Mr. Krabs' own mother. Yikes. Well, the episode is remembered mostly for its absurdity, but beneath the chaos is a deeper theme. The fact that Mr. Krabs isn't just hoarding wealth, he's also chasing something money can't buy. Connection. Camaraderie. A way to hold on to something bigger than his bank account. Mr. Krabs' character turns between extreme frugality and moments of genuine generosity. This suggests that his miserly demeanor may serve as a protective shell, concealing a more charitable core. His sporadic acts of kindness, especially towards those he cares about, indicate that his heart, though often overshadowed by his wallet, is capable of warmth and selflessness. Delving deeper, we might speculate that Mr. Krabs' obsession with money stems from past hardships, perhaps a time when resources were scarce. This scarcity mindset could explain his habitual stinginess. However, when confronted with situations that threaten his relationships or personal well-being, he momentarily breaks free from this mindset, allowing his innate generosity to surface. Maybe his obsession with money isn't just about greed. Maybe it's a response to past hardships, a life where every penny mattered. And when the people he loves are at stake, that survival instinct occasionally takes a back seat. Or maybe he's just playing the long game. But if Mr. Krabs is ruled by his love for money, then our next subject is ruled by its utter rejection of worldly distractions. If Bikini Bottom is a circus, she's the one person who refused to join the show. She's a scientist, a fighter, a monk with the discipline of a Shaolin master. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Sandy Cheeks, the living embodiment of chastity. Now, hold on. Chastity? That word has been done dirty by centuries of bad PR. It's been reduced to the no fun clause in the moral playbook, when in reality, it's so much more. Chastity in its purest form isn't just about romance. It's about discipline, clarity, the ability to see distractions for what they are and say, "Not today, Satan!" And who in Bikini Bottom embodies this better than Sandy? While SpongeBob and Patrick are out here harassing the elderly and engaging in activities that should have them on the FBI watch list, Sandy is grinding, testing her inventions. She's breaking through the crustacean glass ceiling as the first land mammal to thrive in the depths of the ocean. Bikini Bottom is a cesspool of moral weakness. Mr. Krabs, blinded by greed. Plankton, consumed by revenge. Patrick, a sentient beanbag chair powered by sloth. Squidward, trapped under 7 layers of existential dread. SpongeBob, a workaholic optimist one bad day away from a nervous breakdown. And Sandy, unbothered, untouched, unshakable. Distractions come at her from all angles. SpongeBob begs for her attention. Patrick practically worships her superior intellect. But Sandy, she's got bigger things to do. She's running a space program. She's building time machines. She's suplexing Alaskan bullworms before breakfast. You think the girl designing rockets has time for romance? Absolutely not.
Now, prepare for a long, merciless whooping!
She doesn't just work hard, she embraces suffering. She welcomes the struggle. The pursuit of strength, knowledge, and enlightenment is her very identity. How many times have we seen her willingly subject herself to extreme conditions just to see if she can survive? This squirrel is not satisfied with mediocrity. This is a squirrel ascending to a higher plane of existence. Even in sleep, she doesn't rest. Have you ever seen her genuinely relax? No, because she has transcended the need for it.
I've studied underwater chemistry, geology, and astronomy, but I've never studied underwater people!
Her very presence in Bikini Bottom is an anomaly. She is the warrior monk, the scholar, the last bastion of self-discipline in a town drowning in absurdity. And that is why Sandy Cheeks is the embodiment of chastity, not because she rejects romance, but because she rejects all distractions. No love stories, no drama, just pure, undiluted excellence. But what happens when discipline gets replaced with something softer, something warm, cozy, something that doesn't push you to grow, just hugs you into staying exactly the same. Because if Sandy is the pinnacle of self-mastery, then our next figure is the complete opposite. It's time to talk about weaponized kindness. Kindness is gentle, nurturing, and unconditional. It's the warm embrace that wipes away your tears, the soft voice that tells you everything will be okay. But what happens if kindness goes too far? What if it stops being nurturing and starts being a little suffocating? Grandma Squarepants is too nice, too sweet. She bakes cookies, she showers Spongebob with love. She makes him feel safe. Almost too safe. Let's be real. This isn't just a grandma treating her grandson with love. This is someone who wants to prevent Spongebob from growing up. Yes, you'll always be my baby, we get it. But there's a point where it stops being sweet and it starts being a little creepy. Grandma Squarepants played her game so well. Grandma doesn't lecture, she doesn't beg. She just makes staying feel so much better than facing the real world. And the real world? Not great. Spongebob works an underpaid job, lives next to Squidward, and gets yelled at daily. Grandma, meanwhile, has cookies and hugs on tap. She knows he'll always come crawling back. Even Patrick mocks him. Patrick, of all people! Her message is simple. The outside world is cruel. Growing up is painful. Stay here, stay safe, be a baby, forever. And it's not just the cookies. Have you noticed that Grandma Squarepants' house is kinda eerie? Her house isn't just cozy. It's suspiciously perfect. This house isn't just a home, it's a nest. A carefully constructed cocoon of comfort designed to be so inviting that you never wanted to leave. Whoever would want to leave? And that's the point. You don't. She's not just kind, she's weaponized kindness. Now tell me, what's scarier? A villain who chains you up, or a villain who makes you want the chains? A villain who makes you hold out your own hands and whisper, "Please lock me away"? So what's the truth? Is Grandma Squarepants the embodiment of kindness? Or is she something far more sinister? Maybe both. Maybe kindness in its purest form is a double-edged sword. Too little and the world becomes cruel and cold. Too much and you might never escape. Kindness itself isn't the problem, but kindness without boundaries, that's when things get weird. But what happens when your kindness turns into your own source of suffering? What happens when patience stops being a virtue and becomes a life sentence? Ladies and gentlemen, meet Patience incarnate. Karen is an AI, a supercomputer, a being of untold processing power. And yet, she's shackled to the most incompetent villain of all time, Sheldon J. Plankton. Take this, for instance. Plankton confidently struts into the Krusty Krab, delivers an over-the-top, evil monologue, and is immediately bested by a literal spoonful of tartar sauce. Meanwhile, Karen is back at the chum bucket, likely recalibrating her circuits, once again suppressing the urge to self-destruct out of secondhand embarrassment. Any other AI would have gone rogue by now. HAL 9000 turned on humans for less. Skynet looked at humanity and said, nah, before hitting the nuclear launch button. But Karen? She just sighs, boots up another strategy, and prepares for the next inevitable disaster. That's not just patience. That's endurance in the face of cosmic-level frustration. Take Karen 2.0, for example. Karen finally snaps. She's had enough of Plankton's dismissiveness, so she upgrades herself, becoming sleeker, smarter, better. And what does Plankton do? Does he appreciate her intelligence, her devotion, her literal ability to single-handedly keep his business afloat? No, he fires her and replaces her with Karen 2.0, a younger, more submissive model. My guy doesn't even want a solution. He just wanted total control in his marriage. If Patience had a breaking point, this should have been it. And yet, Karen, true to her virtue, comes back. Begrudgingly. She's accepted that Plankton is her problem, and she's stuck with him for eternity, like some kind of Greek tragedy. But patience isn't just about endurance. It's about unwavering, unconditional support even when the person you love is a complete disaster. Which brings us to Single Cell Anniversary. Karen, being the infinitely loving wife she is, plans a beautiful wedding anniversary celebration. She prepares a romantic dinner, sets up a heartfelt evening. She's doing all the work for him. And what does Plankton do? uses the anniversary as another opportunity to steal the Krabby Patty formula. Imagine this in a human relationship. Your partner takes you out to dinner on your anniversary not to celebrate you, but to rob the restaurant. The audacity! And still, she doesn't leave. She doesn't explode. She doesn't even blue screen. She just sighs and waits for him to fail. Again. At this point, we have to ask, is Karen okay? Does she suffer from Stockholm Syndrome? Or is she simply too patient that she bypasses the normal limits of suffering? The best way to understand this is to look at chum fricassee. Plankton finally listens to Karen's advice, makes actual edible food, and starts succeeding for once in his miserable existence. Customers show up, the restaurant is booming. He's winning for once. But then, Plankton realizes his success isn't leading to the Krabby Patty formula, so naturally, he self-sabotages. Karen could have had a thriving business, a purpose beyond watching her husband faceplant on a daily basis. But no, she watches in real time as Plankton dooms them both back to back. Does she rage quit? Self-destruct? File for AI emancipation? Nope. She just lives with it. Because Karen is patience incarnate. She is the Sisyphus of Bikini Bottom, pushing the boulder of Plankton's failures uphill only to watch it roll back down. Again. And again. And again. If anyone in Bikini Bottom deserves an escape route, it's Karen. And yet, she stays. Whether it's love, obligation, or a deeply tragic malfunction in her loyalty code, she stays. But what happens when patience isn't just about endurance, but also humility? When someone is actually competent, actually capable, and yet still gets ignored? Barnacle Boy could be a legend, if anyone actually gave him credit, and I mean it. He's forever overshadowed by Mermaid Man, despite being the only reason that this senior duo is still functioning. He's level-headed, responsible, and literally the backbone of the duo, and yet, even the background fish get more lines than he does sometimes. But does he throw a tantrum? Demanding respect? No, because Barnacle Boy isn't just a sidekick. He is humility personified. Humility is about staying grounded despite power or status. It's about doing the work without needing validation. And nobody in Bikini Bottom embodies that better than Barnacle Boy. Take Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 5, for example. Barnacle Boy finally snaps. He's tired of being treated like a child, despite his obvious senior citizen status, and demands respect.
I'm tired of playing second banana to a man who wears a bra. From now on, I want to be called Barnacle Man.
In a moment of rebellion, he turns to the dark side, joining forces with Man Ray and the Dirty Bubble. He even gives himself a new name, Barnacle Man. Yeah, not the most intimidating villain name. But here's the most important part. He doesn't actually want power. He doesn't want revenge. He just wants moderate respect and maybe the senior discount at the Krusty Krab. And the moment he gets even a fraction of acknowledgement, he ditches villainy immediately. Because true humility isn't about forcing respect, it's about knowing your worth without making a spectacle of it. Throughout the show, Barnacle Boy is the real superhero. He never competes for the spotlight. He never demands credit. He just gets the job done. Because humility isn't about recognition. It's about doing the right thing even when nobody notices. Bikini Bottom worships Mermaid Man. They throw parties for him. They idolize him. Meanwhile, Barnacle Boy is lucky if someone remembers his name. Even Spongebob, the biggest Mermaid Man fanboy, treats Barnacle Boy like an afterthought. Every single episode with them starts the same way. The disrespect, the audacity. And yet, does Barnacle Boy complain? Not really. Sure, he gets frustrated, but he never demands the spotlight. He just stays in his lane, does his job, and keeps the team together. That's humility, knowing you might never be the star, but still giving 100% to the cause. And that's what makes him great. Because true humility isn't about being lesser, it's about knowing your worth without needing to prove it to anyone. He knows his place, he accepts it, and he carries on. That's real heroism. That's real humanity. So what have we learned today? That SpongeBob SquarePants isn't just a show about a sentient sponge flipping burgers. It's a coded moral guidebook hiding in plain sight. Of course, maybe this is all just an over-analysis of a show where a squirrel lives at the bottom of the ocean in an air dome that defies all known laws of physics. Maybe. Or maybe SpongeBob SquarePants is the divine light we never knew we needed. So next time you rewatch an episode, don't just laugh. Learn. Absorb these virtues like a sponge. And remember, if a talking kitchen sponge can embody divine righteousness, then honestly, what's your excuse?